Greetings, Dungeon Delvers and fellow DMs, and welcome back to the DM's Den. Life's been pretty crazy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Lots of business opportunities. Oh my god. But today I wanted to talk about an element that I use in play on rare occasions to mix things up a bit. In combat, a monster that has 1 HP is just as dangerous as a monster that has 100 HP. There are a few monsters in the monster manual that change depending on how much life they have remaining, but a lot of them, they are the same level of danger no matter how much damage they've taken. Now, a creative DM can make certain issues arise for a monster that has taken a lot of damage. Maybe an arm falls off, maybe they're heavily injured so they attack with disadvantage, or maybe they've lost some of their movement. They lose 10 of their movement because they're injured. They're not going to move as quickly. These are things that I refer to as decelerations. They're a way to impede the monster to better show, to better represent how much damage they've taken. It's not just a numbers game, and then 100 to 0, now they're dead. They've taken damage, and if you're a good descriptor, then when a player hits a monster, you are describing how they're hitting them. How we get those different gradients of that's a grievous wound, or you can put a little cut on its shoulder, Instead of just saying you do 4 damage to it, okay, there you go. Having that description can also help their creative process. So doing a deceleration on a monster can be really effective because it shows that the players are making progress. It's a representation of making progress on the monster, on killing it. The thing that I tend to use on very rare occasions, and usually when I have, say, a custom monster, or I took a monster from the monster manual and I beefed it up a little bit, I increased its CR a little bit, or I made it work in a certain way so it fits better inside the narrative, I may add something called an acceleration to that monster. Now, accelerations can take many forms. I'm just going to go through a few of them. One acceleration is a creature that has 1 attack gains multi-attack, so they attack twice. One that gets particularly dangerous is if they get triple attack. They had multi-attack, now they attack 3 times. And that's an act of desperation. They're trying to get away. And maybe, if they already had multi-attack, they gain that 3rd attack at disadvantage. Because they're frenzied. They're trying to get out. They're desperate at this point. It's like a cornered animal. That's when they're the most dangerous. So when they're losing a lot of hit points, when they reach a certain threshold, maybe at 25% of their total HP, they will accelerate in an act of desperation. Some of them will gain a cunning action to dash. So they can move faster because they were now pushing to get out of there. Some have a spell trigger. Maybe they're a magical entity, and when they reach a certain point, they're wearing an artifact that activates when they reach about 25% of their hit points, or 50% of their hit points, that increases their AC by 2. So their AC increases. That's an acceleration. Another one that is common but doesn't break any elements is the damage die increase. So if they were dealing 2d4, now they deal 2d6, and then 2d8, and they go up from there using the same damage die increases that you would use when you enlarge weapons. These are all well and good. My favorite acceleration, and I've only used it once, and it was highly effective and not game-breaking, is the 2nd initiative rule. When a creature accelerates, instead of just making them, when it's their turn, okay, they move faster, the idea that it has a 2nd initiative order, so it goes twice every round. You roll a 2nd initiative, and you put them in the order a 2nd time. This can be extremely exciting. Suddenly you have a monster that, well, he's always going to go after Jimmy, so I have time to do this spell. Oh man, he's going after me. And suddenly, or he goes before me, uh-oh, now we have a higher amount of danger. The idea that the battle sort of ramps up now that the monster's moving faster because they're desperate. A variant on that is to reset the initiative order. I've had a monster in the past that had a time stop artifact, that when they reached, and I kid you not, when they got to 10 HP or below, they were knocked down to 5. They stopped time just long enough, and then everybody sort of fights the effects using their initiative. There's a very specific artifact that allowed this to happen. It wasn't really a will save or reflex, or at that point it was Pathfinder. But it stops time and forces the players to reset their initiative. So they have to roll again at disadvantage, and they reset the order to figure out who fights the effect fastest. And that can really change things. They roll with disadvantage, and the creature rolls with advantage because they enacted the artifact. It mixes it up, and it helps make battles continually dynamic. Now, the monsters in D&D and in Pathfinder and in a lot of these tabletop games are balanced enough that the fights are pretty dynamic, because creatures will change their strategies. They will get desperate. This is a way to represent it as a mechanic. A good DM will decelerate the monster naturally. A good DM will accelerate the monster naturally and figure out, well, they're going to act this way because they're hurt and they want to get away. An acceleration puts it in as a mechanic. It's a guideline. It's one of my variations on a theme. I don't use it all the time, because if I used it all the time, it would break the game. That's not what I use it for. I use it for epic encounters, big important encounters. I only use it where it makes sense, and I have to justify every acceleration or every deceleration, because it's about descriptive. It's about the descriptions, English. It's about painting the picture for the players. You have to do that as a good DM. Maybe the acceleration is a spell goes off, and maybe it has nothing to do with the creature, but it changes the battle. A good example of an acceleration was it changes the expectation. Having a conversation with an enemy, believing that we have them trapped, and then recognizing that they had planted various symbols around the area that then they triggered and exploded the area and caused massive spell damage all over the place. They just wrecked the area, and we recognized that the person we were speaking to was an illusion, and they were actually hiding in the trees ready to ambush us. That would be an example of an environmental acceleration. This is the acceleration principle. This is not something I would say new. I'm just coining it. I use it specifically with monsters a lot of the time to make the monsters a little bit more dangerous, the more damage they take. There are some monsters that as they take more damage, they will get slower. They're going to look pretty haggard. But there are other monsters that as you hit them, they get more and more enraged. They get more and more terrified, which makes them more dangerous. And a way to show that is to give them an acceleration, a specific mechanical acceleration, not just a flavor text acceleration. Yeah. So in short, an acceleration or deceleration of an encounter, using an acceleration on a monster or an environment, allows a specific mechanic for the DM to create a dynamic encounter. You can achieve this through description alone, through the motivations behind and the behavior behind a monster. You can play all these things appropriately. You can also add on a mechanic that makes them more dangerous or less dangerous. This is just a way to do it, and a way that I sometimes do it. I do recommend trying out these mechanics and letting your players know that you might try them out, so that the rule meister in the party doesn't go, "Wait a minute, that's not how that works." That's how they sound in my head. The rules lawyer in any group is helpful in their own right. But at the end of the day, you are the DM. And it's your world. It's your rules. But it's important to be clear to your players. Communicate that you're going to try this variation. Communicate that some monsters may have special abilities the more damage they take, as an act of desperation. Justify it. Give a good reason before and during the battle why they might be able to do this. It's just a nice creative mechanic that you can work with now. Anywho, if you try it out and you're successful, even if you're not successful, like, what did you do? How did you explain it? I want to know. Let me know in the comments down below. Anywho, may your swords be sharp, your magic be potent, and your fitness variation get some more views? Maybe? Okay, bye! Hey everybody, thanks very much for tuning in to today's episode of the DM's Den. If you are on the Book of Faces, you can find me there if the link is actually behaving. I am also on Twitter. It's also not behaving very well. I'm trying to get these things to synergize a little bit better, but whatever, okay. And if you feel like helping out, I am doing a Patreon, so you're welcome to check that out right here. Anywho, oh yeah, and if you want to see another video like this one, or not even like this one, you can click the random link above all the fire. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!